The pardon train arrived at 6 o'clock, snorting blue smoke over the Sierra Parda station, and Micaela Reyes knew from the tremor in her fingers on the edge of her briefcase that one of those pardons was going to cost lives. The air smelled of hot oil, damp wood, and waiting. The wall clock marked time with a dull tick that seemed to push people farther onto the platform. Miners with blackened fingernails, women in dark shawls, old men who had worn out their heels in the deserts, a boy with a hat too big to hide his fear. The locomotive brought a short car with red stripes and an iron chest bearing the governor's seal. Above it, a sign painted by hurried hands, "Pardon Train, Amnesties." Micaela squeezed the briefcase, felt for the fine scar the sun couldn't reach, a pale line on her left wrist, and murmured without moving, "Don't trust papers that arrive with fanfare." No one heard her except Tomas Quintero, the teenage telegraphist, who hunched his shoulders as if an invisible stone had been thrown into his chest. "Doctor, do you really think?" "I think pardon shouts too much, and justice usually speaks softly," she said, and Micaela's eyes followed the attorney stepping down from the car with a briefcase shinier than a winning horse's teeth. "Look at how he dodges puddles, Tomas. He's not used to getting dirty." Attorney Fabian Porto, starched Panama hat, fine sheen of sweat on his mustache, raised a paper with fairground voice. "By mandate of the territorial governor, and in the name of social peace, pardons are announced for repentant citizens who surrender their weapons and their guilt at the table of the law." Tavern keeper Dalia Vega, from the edge of the crowd, chewed a toothless smile. "Table of the law, my gators. Mika, today there'll be toasts or funerals." "I don't provide toasts," said Micaela, without looking at her. "Or funerals." Dahlia clicked her tongue. "Then what? Blessings?" The train gave another snort that rattled ribs. Engineer Eugenia Calderon climbed down, cap at an angle, hands stained with coal, and greeted Micaela with a dry nod. "I brought these paper saints to their altar, doctor. If you smell the devil, say so." "I smell something," said Micaela. "I just don't know what yet." Sheriff Owen Pike watched from the shade of the depot, pale eyes fixed on the iron chest as if a puma were sleeping inside. "Nobody push," he growled. "First, the attorney reads the names. Then we sign. Nobody signs without me." "Without me either," Dahlia shot back. "If someone signs drunk, it'll be at my bar." There were choked, anxious laughs. Laughter, Micaela thought, was a tightrope over a river full of rocks. The attorney tapped the chest with a rod, and two railroad agents opened it with long keys that looked like bones. Inside, numbered envelopes sealed with red wax. The attorney cleared his throat. "Case number 1, Demetrio Avena, cattle theft, conditional pardon. Case number 2, Rosara Moya, minor smuggling." The crowd began to surge, each name opening a whirlpool. Micaela wasn't listening to the crimes. She was listening to the silences. Beneath the names, beneath the music of half-choked relief, she sensed a taut rope about to snap. Until they came to the envelope with black wax, the attorney held it as if it burned. "Case, special. Severo Alvarado, alias the Man from the Sierra, full pardon for services rendered to the territory. Condition, appear to sign today at 2000 hours in the gallows yard, with the weapon he used in all his crimes." The murmurs were a wave slamming into the boards. Tomas hissed air through his teeth. Dahlia dropped an empty glass that broke standing upright. Pike took a step as if to rip the paper from the attorney's hand. Micaela didn't breathe. She knew that name the way you know a shadow that won't leave you even if you walk faster. Severo Alvarado had bled on her table a year earlier, biting down on the strap while she hunted a bullet lodged near a lung, and he had told her through clenched teeth, eyes calm, "You owe me a life, doctor. Don't pay it back. Keep it in a jar." The attorney tried to smile. The governor, in his magnanimity, recognizes that Mr. Alvarado saved the territory's interests in what pertains to... "To what, counselor?" Micaela asked without raising her voice. The attorney blinked. "To preventing bandits from taking the North Line." Severo is a bandit, someone spat. And you're a fool, said Dahlia. A bandit can save a railroad's hide if the price is right. It's not the price, said Micaela. It's the secret. Tomas looked at her sideways. What secret? The one that makes him dangerous to whoever signs that pardon, said Micaela. If they called him with his weapon, they don't want to forgive him. They want to settle accounts while everyone's watching. Sheriff Pike clenched his jaw. No one kills anyone in my yard. Sheriff, said Engineer Eugenia, that pardon smells like a workshop trap. When a boss asks you to stick your hand in a hot boiler just for a second, what he wants is to see you burned or docile. There is no trap, lied the attorney. There is forgiveness. There's a gallows, said Micaela. And a weapon, added Dahlia, and a man who doesn't let himself be led like a sheep. You think he'll come? Tomas whispered. Micaela thought of the cigarette Severo lit with damp matches, of his low laugh when pain had dragged out a scream he didn't give. If he doesn't want to come, he's already here, she said. Then the telegraph rattled, as if a wasp had flown into the bell. Tomas ran and translated with fingers that bumped over the letters. Message from Paso del Diablo, he stammered. At 12, dust from the canyon. At 14, riders with black feathers. At 16, the buzzard arrives. Micaela felt the name like a stone in her stomach. Cayetano Cruz, called the buzzard, a bounty hunter paid by whoever had the heaviest purse, a specialist in turning pardons into tidy burials. Does he work for the state? Someone asked with a broken voice. He works for whoever silences him afterward, murmured Dahlia. Sheriff Pike spat on the ground, a gesture that to Micaela seemed like a worn-out charm. Then there'll be law, he said. If that pardon calls Alvarado, we'll take him off the yard and into the office. Nobody shoots except me. Nobody shoots except him, Dahlia laughed. And when he shoots, it's already too late. Micaela moved as if reaching for a bandage, though no wound was visible. Tomas, she said, send 3 words to Tres Jose Station. Catches fire at night. If Severo is 10 leagues away, he'll read it. And if he doesn't, then I don't want to see him here at 8. You think the phrase. He'll understand it, she said, and his fingers finding the code in memory were faster than fear. Eugenia held her gaze. What are you plotting, doctor? Whether we let ourselves be used as a stage one more time or not, Micaela replied. I don't intend Sierra Parda to be anyone's theater. At noon, the sun stopped being bronze and turned into a white coin that cut the eyes. At 1400, dust in the canyon, just like the telegram. At 1600, men appeared with black feathers in their hats, and at the center of that shoal rode a thin man, dry as a vulture's bone, eyes that seemed to resent needing to blink. The buzzard dismounted without looking at the sheriff or the attorney. He looked at the box of pardons. Then he looked at Micaela as if he already knew who was going to bother him first. Doctor, he said with bloodless courtesy, I've heard you sew mouths. I sew whatever life asks, said Micaela. If you cut your soul, how do you stitch it? The buzzard barely smiled, like someone testing a nice edge with a fingertip. For pay. There's no pay for killing with paper, said Micaela. There are traces. And long shadows, added Dahlia at her side. What are you doing here, Cayetano? Working, he said. They called me. Who? The law. The law doesn't wear a feathered hat, Eugenia cut in. The law signs by day and without bait. Bait, Cayetano repeated, tasting the word. Smells like river. Smells like a trap, said Micaela. If you're here, it's because you know Severo will show up with his weapon. He'll come, said the buzzard, and for the first time looked at the sheriff. Mr. Pike, don't get in the way. My yard, my rules, said Pike. At 8, there'll be no show. There'll be procedure. In 8, there'll be no procedure, Cayetano replied. There'll be a decision. Micaela understood that the bounty hunter had already spoken with someone above Pike, someone who never set boots on that dust. Counselor, she said, without taking her eyes off Cayetano. Who handed you the black envelope? Porto clutched the briefcase to his chest as if it were a prayer. It arrived with the governor's seal. And the signature? The signature was, what was there, said Dahlia, was the order. Shut your mouth, Fabian, or they'll shut it from the inside. Cayetano narrowed his eyes. and for a moment it seemed only the horses were breathing. "At 8, he said at last. "If pardon is given, it'll be with witnesses. If pardon doesn't exist, that too." "Pardon exists when your own guilt weighs more than somebody else's," said Michaela. "And here it smells like other people's guilt with expensive perfume." Cayetano inclined his head in a parting gesture, laid a black feather on the railing, and went to Dahlia's saloon with 3 men. "I don't want them," said Dahlia. "You will," said Michaela. "In your saloon they speak louder than in church. And you?" "I need a siding and coal." "Coal?" "Eugenia," she asked, "get me a handcar." "What for?" "So the night catches fire where it needs to." Half an hour later, Michaela, Tomas, and Eugenia were pumping the little car along the track that cut into the narrow Animas Canyon. The sun was dissolving into oranges, and the rails looked like taut strings of a harp nobody wanted to touch. The wind carried the smell of mesquite, old dust, something saying goodbye. "Doctor," said Tomas, his voice down in his knees, "if we run into him, what will you tell him?" "Not to come. And if he insists, to come unarmed. And if he doesn't obey, then we'll have to twist his fate." "Do you know how?" "No," said Michaela, and the no sounded like a promise. They saw him backlit, like a post stepping away from the evening. He was coming on foot, hat in hand, shirt tucked into his trousers with an absurd neatness for a fugitive, and in his right hand he carried an empty holster. Michaela's heart stumbled and did not fall. "Severo," she said when he was 3 steps away. "No." He looked at her with the same calm eyes he'd had on that table that smelled of alcohol and burned gunpowder. "A phrase called me," he said. "Catch its fire at night." "It wasn't for you," she said. "It was for fear." "Then it went to the wrong place," he said, and his faint smile was dusty. "Fear doesn't go where it's invited." "There's a trap," said Michaela. "Pardon in the gallows yard with your weapon." "I imagined," he said. "Don't come." "I'm already here," he said, lifting the empty holster. "If I bring the weapon, I die with a flag. If I don't bring it, I die without a flag. There's no paper that forgives me." "There are papers that hurt worse than a bullet," said Michaela. "But there's another paper." "Another?" "The one they haven't read," she said, and looked at Tomas. "At 3 today, I sent a telegram to Santa Gertrudis. I asked the territorial judge to certify what we all suspect. That black envelope didn't leave any clean office." "You think he'll answer before 8? Eugenia asked. "If he believes in his own ink, he will. And if not, then we still have the light," said Michaela. "And the audience." Severo let his gaze pass over her to the Sawtooth Ridge the evening was already chewing. "I came to sign for another reason," he said softly. "Because if I vanish into the desert, they'll still come back for you." "I'm not important," said Michaela, and heat climbed into her face like a slap. "You were when you let me breathe," he said. "You are because people who heal are dangerous to people who rule." "I don't know how to shoot," said Michaela. Severo nodded. "That's why you're more dangerous." "Come," said Eugenia. "We'll bring you back quietly." "Loudly," said Michaela. "Noise is good if it's ours." They drove the handcar back, arms racing. At the edge of town, Dahlia was waiting with her hip against a post and a shotgun that smelled freshly cleaned. "The Buzzard's men are drinking like the world's water runs out at 8, she said. Fabian locked himself in with his briefcase. Pike is pacing. The preacher, Brother Abel, already preached about sheep and wolves in the square. "Let him talk about lanterns," said Michaela. "I want them all lit tonight." "Like a fiesta? Like a trial?" At 1945, Sierra Parda was a ring of light. Lanterns on the station railing, torches in steady hands, oil lamps hanging from hooks that had never held anything as heavy as hope. The gallows yard looked like a stage without a curtain. The Buzzard took his place to the right of the platform, arms crossed, 2 men behind him, and Sheriff Pike to the left, with the look of a dog guarding someone else's bones. The attorney climbed up with embarrassment that showed in the way he smoothed his paper. Michaela felt her heart like thunder trapped in a bottle. Dahlia, at her side, brushed her elbow. "Ready? As ready as we can be," said Michaela. "And him? He's coming." Severo appeared walking slowly, with no hurry to die or live, the empty holster hanging from his belt like a word unsaid. There was a murmur, then a silence with claws. Cayetano barely parted his lips. "No weapon," he said. "With life," Severo replied. "The condition says—" "The condition says the pardon is bait," said Michaela, and her voice ran through the yard like a knife under fruit skin. "And the territorial judge is signing at this very minute that black envelope is fraudulent." The attorney clicked his tongue involuntarily. "I haven't seen—" "You're about to," said Tomas, running from the telegraph with a crumpled paper and his eyes wide, as if someone had put coins in them. "Here, read it," Michaela ordered. Tomas swallowed. "To whom it may concern in Sierra Parda, it is hereby certified that no pardon sealed in black wax has been issued from the governor's office. You are instructed to seize any similar document and await verification. Signed, Acting Judge Salvatierra, 1843. "A lie," said Cayetano. "Ink isn't a man. And a man isn't the law if he rents himself out," Michaela shot back. "This yard is not a firing range. If you want blood, use your own." "Doctor," Pike warned. "Sheriff, if that letter's false, we arrest the one who brought it. If it's true, we close the yard and sign pardons where decent things get signed." "Signatures," said Cayetano. "What a word. Do you know how many men signed one thing and then bit into another?" "I know how many died from not knowing how to read," said Michaela. "Today we all learned." Cayetano made a tiny sign. His men opened out like fans and the air changed, as if someone had blown ash over the crowd. Severo didn't reach for anything. He let the wind push a stray lock of hair. "Cayetano," he said in a normal voice, "if you're going to shoot, do it at me." "That was the idea," the bounty hunter replied. "But an idea gets better if it's tested on another head." The barrel of a rifle poked from a rooftop corner. Michaela saw it the way you see the wrinkle that betrays a lie. "Eugenia," she whispered, "the steam." Eugenia gave the barest nod and raised her hand toward the backup engineer, who had kept the locomotive hot. A whistle split the air, and a cloud of white steam covered the yard's flank, like an improvised curtain. "Now!" shouted Dahlia, and a glass smashed against the nearest lantern. The darkness jumped and turned into blotches. Shots rang out. It wasn't war, it was noise. Michaela felt the solid thud of someone dropping nearby, knees scraping dust, a woman's cry that wasn't pain, but rage. "Tomas!" she called. A small shadow answered. "Here. Get under the bench." "And you?" "I'll see." She did. Severo was no longer where he'd been. He'd taken 2 steps right and 1 back, as if dancing with the air. Cayetano, instead, stayed put, trusting the chaos would serve him. It was a brief mistake. Old crippled veteran Silas Burke, whom everyone forgot except when he told other men's war stories, used his crutch like a lance and swept the legs from under the man with the rifle, trying to climb down from the roof. He fell with a foolish thump. "Told you you were good for something, old man," Dahlia yelled without looking. "I'm good for falling," Silas replied, laughing and coughing. A shot hit the post a hand's breadth from Michaela. She smelled hot wood. She didn't see blood and didn't want to. "Drop your weapons," Pike roared. "Either we sign or you die in jail." "That doesn't exist," Cayetano said. "There's only dying." "Not today," Severo said. Their words crashed, and then at last the world lined up for a second. Cayetano and Severo looked at each other across a clear gap. There was no ritual. "Do your fingers still tremble at the end of a shot?" Cayetano asked, a thin smile. "Only when I lie," said Severo. The first shot was Cayetano's, quick. The second was silence. The third was Severo's. 2 hats jerked from the impact. Cayetano's hand went to his stomach as if searching for a dropped coin. He found nothing. He bent over with dignity, without complaint, and looked at Michaela as if asking her not to say anything. She didn't. Cayetano sat down in the dust, closed his mouth, and the men with black feathers stared at their boots as if they were new. No one stepped forward. "Go," Michaela told Severo. "No," he said. "The paper's still missing." The attorney had already climbed down from the gallows without realizing it. He held the black envelope in soft fingers. Michaela snatched the wax seal, tore it open, pulled out the document and held it up. "This did not come from the governor," she said, "and now everyone knows it." "And if they use it tomorrow anyway?" Dahlia asked. "Tomorrow there won't be a yard," said Michaela, looking at Pike. "Sheriff, shut this place down." "I'm shutting it," he said, and for the first time that night his voice sounded like his own. "What about Halstead?" Silas asked, spitting dust. "The tycoon? He hasn't shown his face, but his money has." "He'll show it when he thinks he wins," said Dahlia. "Or when he runs." "He won't run," said Eugenia. "He planted dynamite on the Arroyo Bridge. He wants the train to suffocate here with us inside." Michaela felt the world spin, but didn't fall. "How do you know?" "Because I saw two of his men measuring," said the engineer. "And because I'm not blind. And because I heard the tick the network didn't make. They've tied a long fuse." "How long?" Tomas asked from his hiding place. "Minutes," said Eugenia. "Not many." "Then there's no speech," said Michaela. "There's only a run." Severo looked at her the way men look at walls before stepping outside. "I'll go." "No," said Michaela. "I'm going with Eugenia." "Doctor, I know dynamite," said Silas. "You know how to stay," Michaela replied. "And today we need people to stay." "Why you?" Tomas asked, his voice cracking. "Because no one suspects a doctor will stick her hand where it burns," she said. "And because if I don't come back, someone has to sign the papers." "What papers?" "The ones that just arrived. The telegraph is swallowed. More came." "Read them when I get back," she said, and ran off before Fear could start asking questions. Eugenia was already in the engine cab, pulling levers, making the metal sing. "Get in," she ordered. "We don't have time to brake gently." In the night, the Arroyo Bridge was a black mouth. They saw the tiny glow hanging like an insect. "The fuse," said Eugenia. "Long but lit." "I'll cut it," said Michaela. "No," said Eugenia. "Jump from the catwalk." "I don't jump," said Michaela. "I push." The engine, without cars, moved like an old dog that still knows how to bite. When they were right over it, Michaela lowered herself, her hands burning on the railing, reached the pillar, smelled sulfur and panic, and with the scalpel from her briefcase, she cut the fuse without thinking, as if it were a suture in invisible flesh. The sputtering went out at once. The silence was not relief, it was a drop. "Up!" shouted Eugenia. Michaela slipped, slammed her hip against the iron, and the world showed her dirty stars. A hand grabbed her by the back of her jacket and hauled her up like a wet animal. Severo was there, half his body hanging from the step, a smile that wasn't joy. "I said I was coming," he murmured. "Idiot!" Michaela gasped. "You're welcome," he said. "I hate you," she said. "Good," said Severo. "Hate the living." They came back with the locomotive howling, and in the distance, Sierra Parda was a crown of lanterns holding out against the wind. In the yard, Cayetano was gone. They had carried him to Michaela's infirmary on Dahlia's orders. Sheriff Pike was packing the attorney and two of the magnate's men into his office, hands in plain sight. Brother Abel prayed without looking at the sky. Tomas waved a paper. "Doctor." "What?" "The judge arrived." "In person?" "In ink," he said, trembling. "An audit is ordered of the pardon train and the box of pardons. Dr. Michaela Reyes is authorized to guard the documents until officers arrive. Any public act on the gallows is suspended. Signed, sealed. Then today no one gets killed with papers," said Dahlia with a laugh that came out rough and clean. "Drinks, but with water. And me with air," said Silas, sitting in his doorway. "Halstead's still missing," Eugenia reminded them. "He's missing," Michaela agreed. "If he doesn't show, we'll push him with letters. If he does, with lanterns." He showed. Horace Halstead, light suit, expensive hat, the smile of a man who believes the world is a set of accounts that always balance in his favor. He walked with two assistants who looked like walking clocks. "Good evening," he said politely. "I am told there's been unrest." "There was a confusion," said Michaela. "A black envelope that wasn't from your friend." "The governor is my friend," said Halstead. "Not my boss." "Then your friend writes with ink that isn't his," she replied. "And your bounty hunter fired a shot in a yard that wasn't his." "Alvarado brought it on himself," said Halstead. "A man like that brings violence the way a well brings flies." "A man like that," said Michaela, "brings secrets, and you don't want him telling them." I don't know what you're talking about, he smiled. About the bridge, said Eugenia. About your dynamite. About wanting the train to go quiet. Fables, the magnate said. I can show you the cut fuse, said Michaela. Want to smell it? Smell it with your conscience, if you brought one. Halstead's eyes opened just a little, as if someone had lied to him on a balance sheet. Madam, he said, I am no carnival villain. I'm a practical man. Pacification requires gestures. Pardons are gestures. Sometimes the hands that offer them need to be clean. And that's why you wanted to scrub Severo off the map? Dahlia asked without leaving her shadow. Because he knows where your rails go. My rails carry progress, said Halstead. They carry your name where no one called it, said Michaela. And the progress they bring demands corpses that threaten to speak. What do you think Alvarado knows? He asked coolly. Just enough, said Severo, stepping out of the dark. That your accountant signed land deeds with pardons as payment. And those papers are sleeping in a car that will be unhooked at dawn and disappear to your ranch. Nonsense, said Halstead. Bring me proof. We'll bring it when the officers arrive, said Michaela. Meanwhile, you don't move a finger. Pike, if he does, you cut that hand off. I cut it, said the sheriff, and for the first time Halstead seemed to remember that hands have bones. Madam, he said more softly, you gain nothing by turning the town against the man who pays their bread. I gain sleep, said Michaela, and my dead being the age they're supposed to be. And you, Alvarado, Halstead said, turning with a calm that was draining from his body like water. Always in the middle, always believing a bullet can stop a train. No, said Severo. A train is stopped by a woman with a scalpel. There was a murmur of smiles among the people. Halstead drew a deep breath, looked around as if seeking a light that wasn't there, and understood that tonight the stage was no longer his. Fine, he said. We'll talk tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll talk with officers, said Michaela. Tonight we sign what's due. And they opened the box of pardons, this time in the office, by kerosene lamp, with the wet eyes of people who didn't want to cry. Michaela read names with the voice of a nurse giving good and bad news without changing her face. Dahlia handed out glasses of water as if they were medals. Silas said present when they named a nephew who'd stolen flour. Tomás corrected a letter. Eugenia signed as witness. When it was time to read Severo's, Michaela raised her eyes. I can't, she said slowly. This is the one that isn't. The real one will be written by the big judge. Real things don't wait for papers, said Severo. You already wrote it when you cut that fuse. Don't talk pretty, said Michaela. It won't save you. I don't want saving, he said. I want you to be able to heal without looking up every minute. Cayetano, on a cot in the corner, opened his eyes for a moment, without rancor, and said in a threat of voice, Severo. What? They're not going to let you, he murmured. Or her. I know, said Severo. That's why I'll leave when they're not looking. You're not leaving, said Michaela. Not yet. At 3 in the morning, the town was breathing fully dressed. The lanterns were tired eyes. Halstead had withdrawn to the notary's big house, feigning sleep. Pike left 2 men at the door. Brother Abel left a prayer taped to the church door. Dahlia scrubbed her saloon floor, looked someone lovingly erasing tracks. Tomás fell asleep over the telegraph, hands still on the key. Eugenia rested her head on a table, knuckles black with coal. Michaela did not sleep. At 5, when the sky was between gray and blue and the cold got into your teeth, a measured gallop sounded. Severo was sitting in front of the office, holster still empty. I'm leaving, he said without moving. No, said Michaela. The judge is coming. Halstead's men are coming first, he said. I hear them in the stones, like you hear rain. I'll escort you, she said. You'll escort me better by staying, he said. Today they'll come for the one they can see. Tomorrow they'll come for you. I'm worse at hiding, said Michaela. Then learn, said Severo, but without me. What do we gain? That today there are papers with real ink. That tomorrow there'll be fewer children looking at gallows. Don't give me speeches, she snapped, with anger that couldn't find a way out of her body. Speeches don't plort holes. No, he said. Names do. You wrote names. The locomotive snorted softly, impatient. Eugenia appeared with a cup of coffee like it was a weapon. Severo, don't get on. I'm getting on, he said. They'll shoot you at the Arroyo crossing. The doctor already fixed the crossing, he said. Now I fix the rest. Micaela watched him stand up. He had neither the solemnity of a funeral nor the haste of a fugitive. He had that almost mocking air of men who live as they please 1 minute longer than luck allows. Tell them I signed without a gun, he said. That'll hurt them more than anything. Say you'll come back, said Micaela, stepping closer as if the air were full of thorns. I'll say if I come back it'll be because I'm no longer needed, he said. Don't keep me at the station like a little saint. And then, on the edge of morning, Halstead showed up with eyes swollen from calculation, accompanied by 2 men with money bundle faces. They brought a paper. Stop, he shouted, his voice cracking like bad timber. Arrest warrant for Alvarado for attempted sabotage of the bridge, signed by the county judge here. Micaela walked without stumbling, took the paper, looked at it, and overlaid it with another she had folded in the pocket of her apron. This one's no good, she said. Here's the one from the territorial judge. It overrides what you brought. The hierarchy is crystal clear, pointed out Tomas, awakened by the noise. Santa Gertrudis sang before your county did, sir. I do not consent, Halstead said, with that elegant stupidity that sometimes saves brutes. You don't have to consent, said Pike. You have to obey. Halstead clenched his teeth. Alvarado, he said, you can't live off healers' favors forever. I don't live off favors, said Severo. I live off debts I pay gladly. And he looked at Micaela like someone handing over something that had always belonged to the other person. I'll keep it, she said, not naming what. Severo climbed onto the step. The locomotive moved as if pushed by the memory of the fired boiler. Tell them the pardon train arrived on time, he said, but that you made the real pardon with a cut. Come back, said Micaela. I already came back, he said, and he left. Daylight finally rose. The officers arrived with papers that weighed more than a revolver. They found the fuse on the bridge, found the cheap ammunition used by Halstead's men, found account books in the notary's house. Acting Judge Salvatierra stepped down from his carriage with mud up to his knees, looked at Micaela with the eyes of someone lucid and sleepless, and said, Today you were the government. Today I was stubborn, she said. Tomorrow I'll order patients around. Tomorrow I'll order jail around, said the judge, and Halstead did not smile. In the infirmary, Cayetano opened his eyes, heard the news without fighting it, and said with a calm no one had seen in him, About time. Time for what? Micaela asked. For someone to aim at hands, not faces, he said. Next time I won't come. There won't be a next time, said Micaela, and believed it the way we do when we swear things we can't promise, but say them anyway so the world can get used to them. That afternoon, Sierra Parda smelled of clean clothes and thin coffee. The pardon box stayed under her guard until they sealed it again with wax that didn't look like an oily eye anymore, but a decent seal. Dahlia hung a black feather in a glass on her saloon wall. Silas sat in the doorway to tell stories, but this time he didn't speak of other men's battles. He spoke of the fuse that didn't go off. Thomas wrote in a big notebook, Today there was no gallows. Micaela walked to the station, her briefcase bumping against her thigh like a clock. At the edge of the platform, the wind brought her a low laugh, maybe imagined, maybe trapped in the train's mechanisms. Severo, she said to the air, trying the name once more. Stay far away. And she stayed there, standing, watching the rail vanish in the distance, and understanding for the first time without pain that pardons are trains and guilt is stations. But the only hand that changes the journey is the one that cuts the fuse. When the sun went down, the first star did not ask permission, and Sierra Parda looked tired, but whole. The doctor tied her hair back with a band she had bitten in a treatment room, put the scalpel that smelled of sulfur back in the briefcase, and closed the office door with a sound that was not the end of anything, but was a closing. The exact kind of closing a town deserves when it has learned not to applaud at the gallows.